Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Eric.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look back at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
It's episode 4, definitely. Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and bringing them all the way down.
Eric.
Yes, I'm here. It's episode 4.
I'm nice and drunk.
I am on, what is this? I'm second old-fashioned after a six-pack of, after winter lager from Sam Adams.
We're hunkered down in the bunker.
We are.
We're in the 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger bunker.
This is amazing. We have so much canned food down here.
All the crowd that was watching us earlier, they've turned hostile.
They're beating at our windows. It's like 10 Cloverfield Lane out there. It's fucking amazing.
Don't go out there. You just have to trust me. It's dangerous.
It is. Don't go out there, everybody. Yeah. It's like we're surviving, and it is our sacred duty to continue to provide you with amazing Schwarzenegger-esque commentary.
Absolutely. So we're back with the penultimate episode of our series on Timecop.
Mm-hmm.
Eric gets to try to recap the plot. You don't have to hit every note.
All right.
Just give us the broadest of strokes.
All right. Max Walker, Jean-Claude Van Damme, is a time cop. His wife was killed in the past under mysterious circumstances. He's gone back in time. He's discovered that Senator McComb is an evil son of a bitch who's committing time crimes to rig the election so he can win. They get a message at level 6. Time crime has occurred. He jumps back into the past, confronts McComb. Turns out that Fielding, his partner, who he just met a scene before, is actually a double agent.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
That's
where we're
perfect,
at.
dude. Perfect, bro.
Excellent.
Perfect. So yeah, he's suddenly found himself now outnumbered. Instead of having the upper hand, he's got the lower hand.
Mm-hmm.
And McComb's goons take Walker's guns away. They restrain him. Fielding is like, hey, McComb is about to be president, and I'm voting early, dude. And it's like, finally, one of the many corrupt TEC people that we were promised earlier has revealed himself.
Finally shows up.
Right? So McComb takes Fielding's gun away from her and uses it to kill Parker. And now, as you may recall from earlier, it was said that McComb had exited this company right before they got their breakthrough patent, right? Which cost him billions of dollars. So I guess this technological breakthrough has already happened. Otherwise, he just killed the guy with the $1 billion idea.
I've got to feel like so this meeting where Parker is paying off McComb, Parker has not revealed to McComb that everything has changed.
Yes.
And so I feel like Parker's an ass too.
He's a little bit, trying to scam him.
Yeah. And so he gives him a buyout, knowing that the buyout now is cheaper than the money he will owe him later.
Wasn't that like Walter White's origin story?
Straight up Walter White origin story. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what's going on here.
If you're bored by the podcast, go watch Breaking Bad.
No, don't do that. Listen to the podcast.
Listen to the podcast and then watch Breaking Bad. I'm sorry. That was stupid. No. But so... So now McComb has killed Parker. Walker seems shocked by this, as does the younger McComb.
Mm-hmm.
Walker then tells Fielding sarcastically, oh, yeah, I'm sure he's going to mellow out once he's president, though. McComb is the type of motherfucker who's like, oh, yeah, I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and no one's going to care.
If only there was someone like that we could compare to.
Yeah.
But
so McComb walks over. He's getting ready to kill Walker. But then Walker whips one of the captors into McComb. His gun goes off and it hits one of these I guess the super cold chambers,
liquid nitrogen or
some shit's going on.
Yeah.
But this blast of super cold air comes out. McComb then orders taser goon from earlier, the attack in Walker's
Who
apartment.
made it out on? Wasn't there a line?
He says something about I'm out on bail.
Yeah.
Or something. It's like,
Yeah,
fuck,
yeah.
this system's fucked in the future. But Macomb orders that guy, go get our return module so that we can like bounce back to the future or whatever. So now another goon comes at Walker with this gigantic pipe wrench.
Comically large pipe wrench.
It was like something out of a Looney Tunes
Oh my
cartoon or
god!
some
It was
shit.
just fucking hilarious.
So Walker gets the better of that guy and then bashes him in the head with the wrench, which would definitely kill you.
Easily.
So then future Macomb yells for his remaining goons to get Walker. One of them comes at Walker with an axe, and then Walker like outduels him with the big ass wrench. And Walker then takes the gun that the axe wielding attacker had, but he wasn't using.
This is straight up Halo logic,
Fucking what?
where melee attacks from the back are more powerful than guns.
Okay.
So in Halo, if you can attack an enemy from behind with a melee, it's a one-hit kill. But if you shoot them from the front with a bullet, that doesn't kill them. It's like straight up Halo logic. Straight up Halo logic.
So yeah, Walker grabs the dude's gun, and then he kicks 1994 Macomb
Mm-hmm.
in the face.
Causes like a big cut.
Yeah, and then we see that future Macomb, all of a sudden he's got a scar on his face.
Mhm.
That's the cool shit. We need more of that.
So they do this a lot in Looper. And we're coming back to Looper again. That is something that they use in Looper a lot. Like the actual scarring to drive the plot or
Yeah.
to help define what the timeline is. Like Looper would have been maybe my favorite time travel movie if they hadn't brought the fucking psychic kid element into it.
Okay.
That completely like that kind of upended the movie for me.
Yeah.
But like the way Ryan Johnson handles time travel in the movie is so fucking spot
It was
on.
great.
It was
it's
so
really good.
spot
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
I would also venture to say that this moment is like where this cost Macomb the election.
Mhm.
Like, could you see a dude with a big
Big
scar on their
scar
face winning
Not
president?
happening.
I
Not
don't think
unless,
so.
okay, hear me out.
Even if they're the richest man in the world.
Well, okay, even
But
if they
why
were,
would we want a richest man in the world to be president?
but what if he lies and talks about like maybe he was saving his sister from a kidnapper?
Maybe Antifa did it.
Or yeah, perfect for him. Like, what if he got that scar fighting Antifa?
All of Antifa.
I'm just saying.
He was walking down a dark alley. Antifa jumped out.
Antifa jumped out. All of Antifa jumped out.
He destroyed them all like Rambo.
And so this scar is like a memory of
Absolutely.
his patriotism.
Okay.
You can spin
I
that
got
scar.
it,
You
I
can
got
spin
it.
that scar. You can spin the scar.
But so then Walker exchanges some gunfire with like that top goon, the taser goon from earlier.
Mhm,
He's up on the
mhm.
catwalk. For some reason he's chosen to hide behind a wall of flammable barrels.
Chemicals.
But anyway, the chemicals burst into flames. So now we see future Macomb tells 1994 Macomb, come over here. He's like, look, you own the data link company now. The new chip that we've just developed is going to be worth billions. Then he produces this other envelope and he's like, this is instructions on what to do in the future. It's like Marty McFly's letter to Doc,
Mhm.
at the end of Back to the Future. It's there, but technically this this scene looked good where he held the letter out and dropped it and the other Ron
And the other Ron Silver's
Ron Silver
hands.
caught it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this was like pretty seamless. I
That
don't
was
know.
pretty
Really, it
good.
looked great.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, meanwhile, Walker is near all those flaming barrels. He's pinned down by gunfire from Macomb's top goon.
Mhm.
Then he uses this forklift as cover and uses it to like raise himself up to catwalk level as the flames are spreading all below him. And Walker then ruptures this big tank of coolant that is near the top goon, makes the goon dive out of the way as there's a blast of like cold vapors coming out. The little sequence was well staged as an
Mhm.
action sequence or whatever. So Walker jumps off the forklift onto the catwalk. Although more accurately, he needlessly shoved one of the flammable barrels off the forklift into like the raging fire below, and there was a huge explosion as he
Yeah.
dove off the thing. But He climbs up on top of the coolant tank and then jumps down on top of the goon. And then they grapple for a minute, and he forces the goon's arm like into the rush of coolant that's coming out. So after a second or two, the goon's arm is like fully frozen solid from like the shoulder down. And then Walker says, "Have a nice day," like an obscure callback to the fairly innocuous comment that the goon had made earlier. Which I love that he's been stewing on that for hours.
Like,
this motherfucker told me to have a nice day.
I'm gonna get this.
Boy, when I get him, I'm gonna tell him to have a nice day. It's gonna burn him so bad.
He's been plotting this for fucking how long? Oh my God.
All day he's been stewing on that shit. This motherfucker told me to have a nice day.
Well, you know what, motherfucker?
You have a nice day. It's like my single favorite moment in a Total Recall is when Arnold is fighting fucking Michael Ironside, and they're in the elevator, and like he severs his arms, and he screams at him, "See you at the party, Richter," because the guy Richter had innocuously said "see you at the party" earlier, and he's like, "Oh, that fucking burned his ass." I've been waiting to get him back for that one, but Walker then kicks the frozen dude. And his whole like shit shatters. Yeah. From the torso down or whatever. And the goon had like that clenched fist, like no curses. As a victim of my own hubris.
It was such an odd pose.
I told him to have a nice day. I should never have done that.
Like half of his body is missing. And he's like angry fist in the air.
So yeah, the goon is freaking out. He falls off the catwalk onto some massive piece of computer equipment that is just destroyed.
Okay. All right. So we need to pause here for a second. Because at this point, this entire warehouse has been absolutely destroyed. Like just fundamentally on every level destroyed.
I feel like all this shit that's getting destroyed is important.
Yes.
To the future of the company.
So I don't know what is on that single sheet of paper that future McComb gave the 1994 McComb, but it better be the instructions on how to rebuild this computer chip.
Like maybe there are schematics that exist somewhere of all this shit.
Maybe it's an address to a locker in a bus station that has the documents for all of this. But the amount of destruction that has occurred here is just, it's irrecoverable.
We know McComb's not that guy. He's just the money guy.
Right, he's just
so
a money guy.
So he'd have to find some more like computer science nerds to rebuild this shit.
It blows my mind the level of, I mean, it's an action movie, so we need destruction, we need explosions. But like just looking at it from a standpoint of like, this is not future-proofing your plan. This is probably a huge problem for your plan.
Yeah, I feel like this alters the future in ways
significantly.
Anyway, though.
Anywho.
So Walker and the future McComb, they both find themselves up on the catwalk, and they find the return module at the same time. And then Walker has this terrible callback about I should have told him to freeze or whatever. It's stupid. Yeah. But then Walker's telling McComb, please don't give up without a fight. And then Fielding pops out, kicks Walker in the face. She's like really pleased with herself. Walker's like, hey, look, I don't want to fight a woman. And she's like, that's cool. You don't have to fight.
I mean, that came out of nowhere.
She has so much swagger now. Like she thinks she's going to kick his ass.
Yeah.
But she hits him with a bunch of like punches and kicks, which don't seem to be hurting him at all. No. Then he catches one of her kicks, says, okay, I changed my mind, lays her out with one punch, right? McComb picks up the return device thing, though, and Fielding is like, hey, you don't leave me. And I don't know how the TEC would not send both of them back with a module.
Yeah.
Like, is that how they do it? Only one of you has a way to get back?
These are fucking expensive, dog. We can't just go sending everybody off with one of these.
But McComb tells her, who do you think you're talking to? And shoots her in the chest. Then McComb starts shooting at Walker, but Walker runs away and manages to like not get hit. So McComb tells Walker, you better never come back. And he says, in my future, you're dead, which I feel like was another trailer line. I kind of remember that one.
Yeah.
But so McComb activates his return device. He disappears back to the future.
But this is great though. I love the way he backs into the ripple. It was so good. I actually really like this moment. Like the fucking confidence of backing into the timer.
With it.
Yeah, it's so smooth. It was so good.
So McComb is gone. Walker comes back to check on Fielding as all these other police start to arrive at the scene. So at that point, he activates his own return device and comes back without her, which I don't understand why he would come back without her. Even if he thought she was dead or dying, like he can bring her back and be like, look, here's the corpse.
Your evidence. Yeah.
Yeah. And but do TEC cops not wear bulletproof vests?
I have no idea. That seems like a massive oversight.
Yeah. Even if he thought she was dead, he should still have brought her back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we see that the launch vehicle reappears from nowhere, going the opposite direction on the tracks. It's bringing Walker back.
But this brings up so many other questions. How do you reorient the vehicle? There's just there's so much confusion here. Anyway,
you're right. It should have just been like a pad you stand on and you're gone.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But so we're back to the future now. Walker is told by Matusak that, you're lucky you made it back before we're totally shut down. Walker notices that all the signs that had previously said Parker Data Link now say McComb Data Link. Walker says, well, McComb doesn't have the authority to just shut us down all by himself. And Matusak is like, no, McComb is so far ahead in the polls now, no one's crossing him.
But that doesn't really make any sense. You're a senator running for president.
I guess, but if the polls, indicate that you're a shoo-in to win, then no one wants to get on his bad side.
All right.
Because he's a piece of shit who's seeking retribution.
Okay.
I don't know.
I could buy that. I don't know. I could buy that.
But at any rate, it seems like, despite all the chaos that we've just seen, McComb's plan was a success.
Yeah.
So they're walking, they're talking. Matusak is asking Walker why he's so surprised. He says McComb's been ahead in the polls for months now. It's been the election's in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Walker says, this was not how things were when I left, but McComb has changed the future. Matusak seems very confused, more than he should be, considering that they work in TEC.
Fucking Timecop, yeah.
So now the porn addict tech guy.
Oh, this is
pops
Ricky.
Out. For some reason, he's all corporate now,
dressed in a fucking
a suit,
cashmere suit or some shit. Yeah.
And I don't.
He still has a ponytail. I mean, he still has long hair, but it's in a ponytail.
He's yuppie scum.
Oh
now.
My god.
I've crafted a story that makes sense.
I want to hear the story.
He's a contractor.
Okay.
For TEC, he doesn't really work for them. He actually works for the Data Link company. He's the Data Link rep.
Okay.
So since McComb controls the company, it's all they're buttoned down corporate now.
Oh, I see.
It's when Parker ran the Data Link, it was laid back. I could dress casual. I could jack off at my desk. It's no big deal. You know what I mean? Well, basically, Walker's hey, look, this motherfucker, McComb, he's trying to buy the presidency. And Matusak's well, that's nothing new.
Right.
He's just spitting facts.
It's 2024 and nothing has changed.
So Walker says, well, look, I witnessed McComb kill Parker and Fielding, which Matusak is I don't know who either of those people are.
Right.
So Matusak says, I don't like McComb either, but we can't really go after him without this smoking gun, a witness besides just yourself. Which, how does TEC function?
I don't know
if
what
a time cop is not a sufficient witness.
Right, I know. This is just it's so fucking weird.
Why did he not then bring Fielding back?
Yeah, again, why didn't you bring the body back? There's so many ways. If they had body cams, if there was a hard drive on the device, I mean, there was so many ways that this could have been solved.
I feel it's just this is the way that the plot required this to be.
Right. The plot needed to happen. Therefore, this is what happened.
So Walker says, well, look, there's a chance that Fielding might have survived that shooting. And he asked for permission to go back and look for her.
What are
Like-
the odds of that though? That's so fucking like. I
And
guess
why-
this is like a Hail Mary.
So he's like
or-
saying, the cops were showing up right when I
Yeah.
left. So if they got to her really quick, maybe.
Yeah, I
But why is
guess.
she not wearing a vest? It's all unclear.
It's all unclear.
At any rate, Matusak says, hell no, you're not going back. We're all going to be looking for new jobs after the election, and it's not a good idea to get on Macomb's bad side, basically. Which, what the fuck kind of cowardly, TEC director is this?
I know, fucking he got castrated with the timeline. I mean, Ricky turned into Richard and Matusak
Yeah, he's
was
like, call me
castrated.
Richard.
Yeah.
So-
is it too hard to call me Richard?
So Walker is like, okay, well, follow me. Let me show you something. So, I mean, don't you think that this sort of shit must have happened before? Does the TEC have 100% success rate?
I know. It's just there's got to be a time where someone came back and was like, oh, wait,
Things were way
stoplights
different
are green
when I
now
left.
instead of stoplights are red now instead of green. Subtle things.
Yeah. They really need some sort of system where
Yeah.
the time cops are carrying some form of proof of what things were like
Yeah.
before they left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And then they can do an A/B test to verify that the mission was successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They're playing it really fast and loose in the TEC. That's all I'm saying.
So now they're in front of a computer, and Walker is searching for the personnel file on Fielding. And there's also this whole subplot of Matusak doesn't really recognize that Walker was a close friend of his before.
They go on and on about this for this whole sequence of scenes.
Which is strange on a number of levels
Yeah.
because I don't see how what has just been changed would affect their friendship.
I feel so they knew that they didn't have the budget to go outside of the TEC to show how much the world has changed.
Yeah.
They were going to be in the space, and they're like, what can we change to really emphasize how dramatically the world has changed by Macomb's actions? Okay,
Yeah.
what if we turned Ricky into, or from a porn addict into this really straight-laced douchebag?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, I got you.
And then Matusak and Walker were never friends before.
What's the cheapest way we could show that
What is
things
the
have
cheapest
changed?
Exactly. And this is all they had were Ricky / Richard and Matusak. That's all they had, right?
It's also you don't want to overcomplicate the plot, but you need to explain why Matusak wouldn't just trust Walker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what if they weren't great friends?
Right. Okay.
Maybe he's like, oh, I don't know if I should trust you or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, Walker is saying Macomb has got to send some goons back again to make sure that Fielding is dead.
Yeah.
And so he's looking on the computer for any sort of information about Fielding that might help track her down back in 1994, which I don't even know that Macomb's goons would need to go to
No.
double check. I feel like you could verify
They
that
didn't-
in the present.
And they also didn't go back to double check on Walker's death, right?
Sure. No.
These are not people who follow up on the mistakes that they make, right?
Nah. But so there's no record of Fielding in the TEC computers. So Macomb is, I guess, either already deleted all her files or made sure that she never got hired in the first place. I don't know. But Matusak asks, how is it that Macomb is sending people back to the past without our knowing it? And Walker says, well, the prototype time machine was never dismantled. Which that seems to bring Matusak around. They're like, oh, yeah, that shit's just over at the warehouse in Maryland.
I feel like there needed to be at least one scene showing the prototype.
Yeah,
This
I
is
feel like
the
they
first
ran out
two-
of money, I feel like.
We are in Act 3 at this point, and this is the first we're hearing about a prototype machine.
Well, it's extra weird because they're kind of like, yeah, let's go check it out.
Right.
And then that doesn't happen.
It does not happen.
No.
Yeah.
So Matusak is like, we don't have authorization to access the system to see if that prototype is still being used. And Walker's like, okay, but we do have horny ass Richard over here who can
Not
check
so
on it.
horny anymore.
Poor
At
guy.
least professionally.
Yeah. Which is that I think bolsters the theory that technically this dude works maybe for the data link and not for TEC, that
Yeah.
he can access some systems that the TEC director does not have access to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. But so elsewhere, we see that Macomb is riding in his Cybertruck with his political advisor goon.
Who still has a fucking piece of cotton up his nose.
Yeah, it was like they
which
filmed
is
all this in one day for
hilarious.
sure. Also, Macomb's still crushing that bowl of nuts.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
tossing the corn nuts or
Just-
whatever back.
I love
you
the
know?
idea that he gives it advisors like, I have one rule. When I get in my limo, there's got to be a bowl of pistachios.
A Tiffany crystal bowl full of pistachios.
If there's not a crystal Tiffany bowl of pistachios in my Cybertruck when I get into it, you're fucking fired.
So Macomb is saying, no, Walker's got to die, obviously. But he explains, I'd love to just kill him here and now, but I got to assume he's already talked to other people. So if TEC agent Walker dies, that'll raise all types of suspicion, which I also would say that was the case when they were back time traveled to 1994.
100%.
Like, if he killed Walker there, wouldn't he also assume that Walker had told Matusak about Macomb's schemes? But anyway,
all of this is accurate.
Macomb instructs his guy to arrange for some goons to go back and kill Walker in the past before he ever joined TEC, which is definitely like a more clever way of handling the situation.
Yeah.
Right? So now then back at TEC, the horny tech guy is confirming that the facility in Maryland where the prototype is kept does show spikes in power usage that would indicate that it is being used for time travel,
Well,
right?
there you go.
So Walker again pleads, like, let me go back. And the tech guy butts in to say, okay, well, no one's allowed to go back anymore. Like, we're decommissioning everything or whatever. But Matusak seems open to the idea now. So he escorts Walker down to the launch area. And I think, like, as the head of TEC, you got to put the fate of the world in front of your professional, like, your career prospects.
Yeah.
You know? So he's doing the right thing, I guess. But so there's these two soldiers down there guarding the door. They say, you know, we're going to have to call for permission before we can let you in there. So Walker just, like, beats the shit out of them. Finally, we got to enjoy, like, a little limited Jean-Claude Van Damme martial arts shit.
We get a little kicks. We get a couple kicks in there.
We got to enjoy it while we can. I feel like the only reason you watch a Van Damme flick is because he's a martial arts guy.
Yeah.
Like,
There
if
is
he's
a-
not doing the martial arts, then it's like, why am I watching this?
There's a lot of kicks in the beginning of the movie, including like fake kicks with the rollerblading goon or, purse thief. But then, once the story gets going, there's not a lot of there's a lot of gunplay, but there's not a lot of kicks going.
It's kind of like later era Schwarzenegger where he's like, I'm not going to be the muscle guy anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to be the guy who can't act particularly well trying to play dramatic scenes, without my muscles to lean on.
I mean, like Timecop was a huge hit for Van Damme, and I feel like maybe he thought, I finally pierced the veil, right? Like,
for sure. He thought he would go on to become fucking the biggest star in the world.
Right,
or whatever.
exactly.
But so they enter the chamber, whatever. Walker goes and he hops into the launch vehicle. Matusak warns him, like, usually it's a whole team of people, like, to pull off a successful launch. Walker's like saying, you just get going and make sure I get back to the right fucking year or whatever. Matusak runs around just fucking flipping switches and pushing
I'm glad
buttons.
he knows what fucking switches and buttons to press.
I don't see how anything that he's doing would equate to a precise destination. But so
I've got a master's degree.
I'm just pushing buttons and turning knobs. This is October 1994, DC. Yeah.
Oh my God.
As all this is happening, more soldiers arrive. They tell Matusak, shut that equipment down. Matusak ignores them, keeps, like, working as they open fire. Matusak is shot all to shit. But with his dying breath, he's able to reach out and push the launch
Classic last button pressed action.
Well, I love the moment that flames shoot out of the back of the little launch pod thing.
And lights the fucking
light
dudes
those
on
dudes on fire.
Yeah.
Kill those dudes who are presumably U.S. military. But, whatever.
Fuck them. They were shooting at the heroes.
Absolutely. So the vehicle rockets down the track, takes Walker back to the past.
Mm-hmm.
So back in 1994, Walker appears in the middle of the highway right as this tractor trailer is bearing down on him.
Good shot. This is a good
He
shot.
drops down to the pavement and the tractor trailer drives right over him. That was an iconic moment from the trailer.
Oh, yeah. Every trailer. Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
like the most iconic little moment because that shit still looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It looks good.
Yeah, even now on a big giant TV, it looks really good.
So using some type of future tech, he's got this like his little Palm Pilot thing that he's got voice command on. He plugs that shit into a payphone, and all of a sudden it's plugged like into the police mainframe.
I feel like the police mainframe is not plugged in
to payphones. He's like, search for any Jane Does who went to hospitals with gunshot wounds yesterday. But the device can do, whatever the plot requires.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Walker finds a shooting victim that fits the bill. He's going to the hospital. So he arrives at the hospital by taxi. We see that his wife, Melissa, is leaving the hospital at the same time, but they don't really see each other. And Melissa's got this like look on her face, whatever. She's got a lot on her mind.
I wonder what's on her mind. Kevin.
Yeah. Finally, the plot is heading in the only direction that it could possibly be heading in.
Mm-hmm.
So Walker goes into the ICU. He flashes that TEC badge, says, "I'm here to see the Jane Doe." The nurse is like, "Yeah, go on in."
Whatever.
Like, what? The badge he showed in no way, shape, or form resembles an actual normal police badge.
Not even remotely.
The nurse is like, futuristic clothes, weird badge. Yeah, go and help yourself.
You must be a cop. Right.
Right on.
You're not in a Halloween costume. No.
So Walker enters the hospital, finds Fielding sleeping in there, wakes her up by telling her happy birthday, and she's like, all I want is to go back home. She's really like soft pedaling her role in attempting to kill him earlier.
Really trying to
So
demure, very mindful.
Yeah. Walker says, I need you to come back and testify against McComb. And she happily agrees to this. Then Walker's like, we better get moving because if I can find you, so can they. So then instead of just taking her back, like whatever, grabbing her hand and pressing his button or whatever the fuck, he's like, nah. I'm going to need proof that you existed in case they kill you. So, like, she's like, well, you could go to the lab and I have blood work there. And it's like, this is batshit stupid.
This is just, we need the plot to happen, so we're going to do this. It makes,
right.
I can't.
I promised you guys earlier, I'm going to take you down a quick rabbit hole to try to apologize for the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's this bit that is never spoken explicitly in the movie, but basically if you can prove that someone is existing in a time where they're not supposed to be, that's proof that they time traveled, and that's proof that they're guilty of time traveling, which is illegal.
Yeah.
Right? Like Atwood. I brought you back. That's proof that he was in 1929 doing some shit. Right?
Yeah.
So, but even if that's the case, that like, well, if I could bring back blood of hers from 1994, like, what would a vial of some random person's blood prove?
Just because it has a sticker that says Fielding on it, anybody could put a sticker on a vial of blood.
He could have even gotten blood from 16-year-olds Fielding.
Right, exactly. He could have gone back to any time frame. I know.
But at any rate, Walker's like, I'm off to the lab to find your blood sample.
We said this in like episode 1 or 2. Sorry, this is episode 4, we're getting to that point. But the movie starts playing really fast and loose with continuity starting in Act 3. It's almost like we need to get this movie done, and so things are going to happen because the movie needs them to happen, and we're not worrying about continuity anymore.
If you haven't walked out already, you're not walking out now.
You're not walking out now. Yeah, exactly.
But so Walker is off to the lab to look for Fielding's blood sample, and finally Fielding like offers something of an apology, saying, she wants to set things right. Then she gives this cryptic line about how you might find that you can make things right for yourself.
So she's basically saying to them everything that the audience has been like, okay, at what point in the movie are you going to go back and save your wife? I mean, like, she's giving him permission.
But what does Fielding mean by this line?
I don't know, because she he's mentioned obliquely that his wife has died. She doesn't know.
She wouldn't know that it was like
None.
right now.
Right. No idea.
Yeah, I love that he had pointed out she's in grave danger and like immediately had left her unattended. But he could have told that nurse like, "Hey, don't let anyone in this room."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
you think I'm a cop because of my fake badge and my official uniform. I'm telling you now.
Don't let anyone in here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, though, Walker goes to the lab. He finds the vial of Fielding's blood. But then he's also like surprised to find this vial with his wife's name on it and a positive pregnancy test. Dun, dun, dun.
Bum, bum. Yeah.
And I love that he just, at that moment, he dropped Fielding's vial.
This whole blood, like this vial of blood, the whole movie apparently hinges on this vial of blood. I left her unattended because I needed this vial so badly. Right? And it's like, it's as if it only just occurred to him that his wife is still alive for like 12 more hours. You know what I mean? What if his PTSD, again, I'm just trying to, what if his PTSD from this event was so dramatic that he actually kind of repressed his emotions and his memories about it? And so he's sort of like intellectually like Uatu the observer.
Well, we know that he like thinks about her every night or whatever.
Damn.
But he maybe doesn't like think about the specific day.
Maybe that's just a masturbatory fantasy and he's never
He's got a birdhouse fetish.
Yeah, and he's never been confronted with the reality of her death, but seeing her blood and the positive pregnancy test, maybe that triggers some sort of PTSD inside of him in that moment, right? Like, what if that was the breaking? Everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has a point where they hit bottom. Maybe that was his bottom point, right?
I'm here for it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I will say, I don't think it's typical for people, like for the typical pregnancy test to be performed at the hospital.
No, generally speaking, you pee on a stick. Especially in 1994.
Maybe in a small town, but they're like in D.C.
They're fucking in D.C.
If you have an OBGYN, you just go piss on the strip.
Right, exactly.
But I guess after that test tells you you're pregnant, then you may go see a real doctor.
Double check. That is fair. My mother
but you
did
don't
the
go to
same
the
thing.
hospital.
No, my mother did. But she was in Tampa.
Yeah.
So when she got pregnant with me, she pissed on the strip, and she was positive, and then she did a follow-up pregnancy test at the hospital.
Okay.
So it's not unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Okay. So Walker then, he hustles back to Fielding's room, finds her dead.
Yeah.
Because of course she's dead.
Because of course she's dead.
So then the nurse pops in.
This is the only when only when Walker shows up does she realize.
Leaves to the conclusion that Walker must have killed her. And starts screaming for help because of course it's a movie.
This whole thing was hysterical. There's still a needle with poison in it in the IV. I mean, like who? And he's standing on the other side of the bed.
Yeah.
Like, who poisons someone and then forgets to remove the needle from the IV?
Of course.
And then stands on the other side of the bed and pretends to give a shit. Like, it's just, the whole thing was hysterical.
The nurse is, of course, like, oh, yeah, you did it for sure.
You absolutely did it. There's no questions.
Elsewhere, we see those two future goons from the beginning of the movie.
Future goon 2 up. That's right.
They're walking away. Did she not notice future goon number 1 and number 2, like, walking into the room?
I have no idea, man.
Earlier? I don't know. But Walker goes chasing after those guys. They get on an elevator before he can catch up. So then hospital security begins chasing Walker.
These motherfuckers were around a corner.
Yeah.
Completely oblivious to anything that was going on.
Yes.
But then they're immediately keyed in.
They went 0 to 60. Like, there's a guy. Get him.
Get him.
Right? So Walker runs away. He ducks into a hospital room. And then blindly, like, jumps out the window. And I horny me thought this was another great place for, like, some gratuitous nudity.
Yeah.
Like, the sexy nurse is giving a woman a sponge bath in the room or whatever.
100%.
Sadly.
This was the era for it. Yeah.
It didn't happen that way. But we also get a lot of movies on this podcast where people are just jumping through windows with no idea what's on the other side.
And he definitely did
I might be on the second floor. I might be on the 20th floor. I don't know. But Walker jumps through that window, grabs onto this like railing that's outside, whatever. Then the railing gives away. He falls down a floor to another railing and then tumbles off, whatever. He's on the roof below. You could definitely see a wire on the stuntman.
Oh, man.
But it was still kind of cool.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was. There was a lot of like collisions and like shit shattering and breaking. And so, yeah, it was cool.
So he gets up and runs away. Cut to that Polaroid man with the big macaw on his shoulder.
He's back, everybody.
Right, the dude from the beginning of the movie saying, "Pictures bring back your memories." And I like that the filmmakers thought that we would not figure out what's going on unless we had the guy with the big bird staring right down the barrel of the camera and delivering the very odd line from the early part of the movie. So then we see Walker has arrived. He spots Melissa walking around the mall. He goes and he finds her. He stops to manhandle that rollerblade bandit. He like throws him into the display of ruffles.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I feel
that's
sorry.
for what you're going to do later. And it's like, well, fucking shit. You fucked up the ruffles person's
But
day.
he's also fucked up the timeline, like immediately.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Nothing can be the same again, right?
No, everything changes. Rollerblading bandit, like that's he's the cornerstone for the whole movie. We just don't know it.
So then we see the future goons are there also. They're watching Melissa. Walker goes and he catches up with her. She recognizes like his voice, but then when she turns around, she's startled because it's like not her 1994 husband.
I thought this was played right.
Yeah, I thought
honestly.
her performance was good.
Yeah.
That was a tough acting moment to be like, you're my husband, but you're not him.
Yeah.
And I'm confused, like, who the fuck even are you?
Yeah.
It worked for me.
It worked for me too. I believed it in that moment. Yeah.
Right. So she tries to pull away and he grabs her. And she's like, who are you? And he's like, no, it's me. It's your husband. He says, well, then he sees the future goons approaching, whatever. So he says, like, I can explain everything, but you got to trust me right now. So he grabs her, whisks her way down this hallway into like the bowels of the mall. And
T2 style.
Yeah. And in high school, I had a job in a mall.
Yeah.
And the bowels of the mall like are pretty realistic. It's like these really long, nondescript hallways or whatever. Yeah. She pulls her hand away. She's like, what the fuck is going on? We see that one of the goons is approaching and Walker like begs her, like, you got to trust me. Goon busts in the hallway and it's empty. But it was like I was waiting for the T-1000 to pop out and like a shootout or whatever. But the dude walks on past. We see that Walker and Melissa have hidden in some door just off the hallway. Future Goon did not do a great job of sweeping.
No.
Like for them.
Really, really lazy.
I'm like, maybe he's just like looking for the fucking pisser.
I mean,
like
this is the reason. If Future Goon was 15% smarter, this movie would have never happened.
For sure.
It is him. His stupidity is the
He
reason
really
this
fucks it up later.
He so much fucks it up. I know.
Yeah. But so he walks on, he's gone. Now Walker is trying to explain to Melissa, it's me, but I'm from 10 years in the future. She's like skeptical about this. So he explains that the new job that Matusak had wanted to hire him for is like time travel shit. She's still not believing it. But then he reminds her of that time that he watched her fail to build a birdhouse. Right? And then she's like, okay, well, what am I like in 2004? And he lies and is like, oh, yeah, you're perfect, just like right now.
I mean,
That's
like, from a certain point of view.
Yeah. You haven't aged a day.
You haven't aged a day.
No. But, like, what? Like, that's an odd first question to ask, right?
I know.
I feel like I would be more likely to ask, like, so what are cell phones like 10 years from now than, like, what am I like 10 years from now?
I feel like she's a bit of a covert narcissist, right?
Seems that way.
Like, the first time he hears about the future, the first thing she cares about hearing about is herself. Suspicious.
Yeah, you do. Maybe you got out of there.
Yeah, maybe you got lucky when the future goons blew up your house.
But so she's
that
like,
got dark real fast.
So she's like, why'd you come back from the future? And he's like, he doesn't really answer that. He's like, let me show you. And then he takes her back to the shopping area of the mall and points out, we see 1994 Walker walking in.
Free extensions Walker.
Yeah. So he says, you've got something very important to tell him today. And she's like, how'd you know that? And he's like, I just told you I'm from the future, bitch.
Yeah, I mean, just come the fuck on. Like, why do I have to keep reminding you of this?
Anyway, but he says, she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm here to prevent changes in the past. I'll tell you all about it later. But like for now, you can't tell 1994 me about any of this. But importantly, he in no way insinuates that they personally are in danger.
No.
But I do think like he was just trying to hide her from goons.
Yeah.
So I guess she put two and two together.
Yeah, she's not an idiot. Yeah.
So he gives her this big old smooch, darts away just as 1994 Walker arrives. That was a technically like spectacular camera shot.
Yeah.
With the two Van Dams. Because it was like he's walking away and the camera never really stops moving around as the other guy comes around the corner and walks right past him. And I'm like, I don't really know how they did this.
I mean, it's just excellent motion control, right? I mean, like it
had to be, but it looked
flawless
great.
Motion control. Yeah, I almost feel like I almost feel like the editor or whoever's handling that cut, like put that together, going, well, this will be all right, and then saw it and went, damn.
Like better than we ever could have hoped for.
Yeah. I suspect that editor was just as surprised as we were.
Some of the scenes that were like much more stationary looked a lot worse.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Anyway,
but that scene looked like he had a twin. I mean, it was
really pretty
did.
great.
Yeah.
So then we see that interaction from the beginning of the movie where like, the whatever is like, oh, she's at the clock store.
If you're not my husband.
And all that. Who are you? I'm going to turn around, yada, yada, yada. Now, I will say the first time we saw this play out, she had come walking out of the drugstore and straight to the clock shop. So this is like, I guess, the first time that this version of this is happening.
There's always has to be a first time.
But it is essentially she's playing out the same dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess she's just like, I could see that maybe.
Yeah.
Like if he said this to me, what would I say naturally? I could see it playing out the exact same way.
She's a damn good actor because if I met my wife or my husband from 10 years in the future and he said, pretend like nothing happened, I'd be like, you can go fuck yourself. There's no way I can do this. So
yeah,
props to her for being able to compartmentalize her emotions like that.
But so here we are. The rubber is meeting the road. We've got all like the pieces have come together now.
Everything is converging.
It's like Back to the Future 2 shit where we're back into the original movie again.
Yeah.
Which is where it's working the best, I think. But that's where we'll leave you.
All right. Part 4 has come to a definitive conclusion.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week with the exciting conclusion of Timecop, a movie that you probably haven't seen in quite a while.
You should watch it again.
But I bet you remember it well now that we're like digesting all of it for you. Yeah, we're baby birdie feeding it back into your mouth.
That's gross.
It's definitely gross. Okay, anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. That's all I got.
We'll be back.
Time won't let me